You're listening to Living Out Loud with my mom, Michelle Flamer. Yep, she's a flamer and proud of it. Get ready to learn about queers in your communities doing great things every week.
Hi, and welcome back to Living Out Loud. Today's guest has spent a lifetime searching for one thing that many of us take for granted, the freedom to fully be herself. After decades of navigating life while carrying a truth she wasn't yet able to share, Kay Holmes embarked on a journey that would ultimately lead her home to authenticity, self-acceptance, and joy. Karen is the author of 40 Years and Wandering No More, Loving My Life Being Transgender, a powerful memoir that chronicles her path of self-discovery, resilience, and transformation. Through her story, she invites us to explore what it means to live honestly, embrace vulnerability, and find peace after years of feeling disconnected from who we truly are. Today, we're talking about courage, identity, belonging, and what happens when we stop wandering and start living as our most authentic selves. Please join me in welcoming Kay Holmes. So lovely to meet you.
Hi, Michelle, and thanks for having me on your show. It's actually you're the first podcast interview I'm doing with about the book, so it's absolutely great to be able to. And I can feel this dynamic between us because you're like I am whenever I'm out on doing a show or something like that. Is that connection, whether the flow is going to be perfect, and I feel that right here with us.
I feel it too. I felt a little buzz between us, which is really exciting. And funny enough, I just finished writing my first book called The Connect Effect. So if you're feeling that, then that's good. Then I'm doing what I usually do, and that's just who I am. So what I love to tell, like with the listeners today, they're going to want to know a little bit of your background and like how you navigated this incredible journey. But the thing that I am finding through our pre-chat is just how whole you are from inside and out. And I'm excited to learn more about this portion of your life because the rest of it is online and in the book where we can all enjoy and and learn about you. But today I would love for you to start wherever you want to start, and we'll go from there.
Oh, great, great. Well, I can't forget about Tony. And Tony is a springboard to who I am today. And that's what I tell everybody, it's like, Tony may be dead, which a lot of trans people look at their past as their dead person. But to me, there was a lot of things that Tony did that I'm doing now or continue to do because that's what's instilled in my heart and my soul.
I love that.
And, Tony, absolutely played sports, baseball, football. And if I had played my cards right, and I'm going to go ahead and flip on that, but if I would have been possibly playing a Major League Baseball. I played shortstop, and, we had won two championships on the same day, one in D.C., and then drove from there out to Rockville, Maryland, and another championship game that we had forfeited our first game because our first game time was the same down in DC, and we won that game. And in both games, in DC, we won 2-1. I scored the winning run, stealing home. And then in the second game in Rockville, I had a double off the fence, and it was so weird because when I hit it, my coach at first base went, "Oh," and I thought the guy caught the ball. And so instead of getting a stand-up double, I could have possibly had an inside the park home run. But we won 6-4. I scored the fifth run to do that. And then this guy from came up to me afterward and he said, "Hey, I know a scout from the New York Mets. I want to have him come see you play ball." And I transferred schools and didn't tell anybody. So, that was that. Tony, I felt was happy. But you know what? When I started dressing at the age of 13, it was like a totally different thing. And I just thought I was just getting dressed just to be getting dressed. Here in the house and stuff like that. As I got older and started driving, I would go somewhere, get clothes and stuff like that. And it was, that was who I am. And so that's why the title of my book is 40 Years and Wandering No More, because at the age of 53, that's when I finally said, enough is enough. I'm going to go ahead and transition. And it's, I say to everybody out there, live your life to your fullest dreams. And when I started doing that, I then became 150% happier to
Mhm.
myself. And that was October 1st of 2010. And I'm coming up on my 16th anniversary this year. And I just can't wait because my journey started at October 1st of 2010, but it is still going each and every day. And I'm just excited to see what the future holds because, like I said, it's a never ending thing. And then,
Yeah.
and then in 2016, um, April 8th, I had the big surgery, and now I'm 200% happier than I've ever been. And I hate the fact that, some of my old friends who are cross-dressers, they just go, "You're still friends of ours?" And I'm going, "Yeah, why not?" I never forget where I came from. And when I go speak at conferences and stuff, I take my boxing gloves with me. One's pink and one's a light blue for the trance. And I lay that on the podium, and I tell people, I said, "Look, to the trans community, I say, I want you, this is a representation of I'm still in your corner fighting for you
Mhm.
each and every day." So that's why the boxing gloves are up here.
I love that. w- what's really cool is I played tennis all the way through college, and I was a catcher for baseball.
Oh, okay.
It was fun. And so I was a catcher in softball. I didn't play softball till high school, but I love that we both have that, athlete in common. It's probably also part of why you and I connected so easily. It's like it's that. So the title of your book is incredibly powerful. What does wandering mean to you?
Just basically out there, I didn't know who I truly was. And, I'm trying to find myself out there. And for years, I was always praying to God. It's like, show me, tell me, why do I keep dressing? I have no idea. And um, I'm religious in my own way as a born again Christian, but I kept asking God, and I believe that He has His own timing for us. And I understood that, but I just didn't, was like, no, no, I want it now. And, that doesn't always happen. A lot of people have always asked me and said to me, do you wish you had, transitioned at an earlier age? And I said, I do, but I think, transitioning at the age of 53, just basically, I feel like I'm more mature. And I think at that earlier age, I probably would have been this wild child wearing really short skirts and dresses and heels and looking like a hooker, probably.
Don't think so. You're quite refined, in fact. I don't know if you would have gone the hoe route.
But that, it's so funny because a good friend of mine taught me before she committed suicide. She said to me, if you're going to wear a short skirt or a dress, wear flat shoes. And I went, hmm. And if you're wearing a long skirt or pants, pants, you can wear the high heels and stuff like that. And ever since I really flipped that, I think that, life has been so much better for people who view me. And I see some of my friends, that I go to conferences, they're wearing the short skirts and the long heels. But you know what? They're going through what I look at as their puberty time,
Mm.
time that they didn't have to do it when they were younger. And that's how I felt too. And I said, now I understand.
When was the time that you thought, God, I really need to write this memoir?
16 years ago. My aunt, she got on my case probably, um, actually, in 2011. She was saying basically, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. She constantly told me that for years. And I retired from the federal government last year, September 28th. And then I talked during prayer and praise time at church. I said, please, you know, give me some guidance. Pray for me that I may find somebody to help me with this book. And I got a message from a church member that said, contact my coach, my publisher now as well, Natasha Tynes. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. So we talked, we gelled really well, like we do. And Natasha actually heard me speak at my church. And so when I contacted her, she was very excited to want to do the book. And she told me, she said, Karen, I'm giving you an assignment. I want you to do this book in 4 months, and I want 40,000 words. And I'm thinking in my head, is she crazy? Because I'm like, that's a lot in 4 months. And actually, I did it 3.5 months, and I did 41,000 words. And so I was very happy. But Natasha gave me what it was that I needed, that I never had for all these years, was a Waze, or a Google map. I
Mhm.
needed that to get me from point A to B. And she showed me that, giving me the outline and stuff like that. And I tell you, it was absolutely awesome to be able to have some kind of roadmap to get to where I needed to get to.
Yeah, I think when you're in that flow as a new writer, as a new author, right? For me too, it's like when you write about something that feels so passionate, you're passionate about, it just kind of flows out of you. And I bet it was really fun. Did you have like a schedule of how you were writing, or was it just like, gonna sit down because I got it in me right now? Or I know some people use voice messaging or whatnot, but what was your process like?
I did have like sometimes a notepad in the car next to my bed. If I woke up during the middle of the night and I wanted to talk about this in the book, I did. I ran it by Natasha. But what she did to me is when I had something in the memoir about a certain chapter, she said, tell me more. I want to know more about this.
Yeah.
And so that pulled it out of me.
She
Um,
helped you to get curious about
yeah,
that and to continue to ask, because that's what the reader will want to do. So you have to finish those thoughts. We take it for granted because it's
right.
in our head. We're like, we know what happened, but we have to
Yeah.
actually articulate it, for the reader.
Well, I tell you, sometimes, I just, was totally drained, because it got me very much emotionally involved in the book. And so I talked to Natasha. I said, look, do I need to do so many words per day? Do I need to do this or that? And she said, no, take a break. If you only do 100 words, that's all you want to do that. And because there's things that came up into my thoughts and heart, and it like, wow, I went through all that. It's like at the beginning of the book, the prologue, it's about the cliff when Tony threw all of Karen's clothes off the cliff, thinking,
Really?
yeah, and that's in the book too. That he was killing me, that was inside him, and 2 months later, I'm like, I'm back. You can't get rid of me. And so that's basically the thought, I would assume, me as Karen inside Tony saying, you can't get rid of me. I'm here to stay. And I'm so happy that that happened.
I feel like that's like a sliding doors moment. Did you ever see that Gwyneth Paltrow movie, Sliding Doors?
No, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I think you would really enjoy it. It's that moment of like, I could live my life as Tony. What does that look like, right? Or I can now step into who Karen is really meant to be. And I have to ask, why Karen? What was that name? Out of any name that you could absolutely choose, what called you to that name?
I'm glad you asked that question, and I'm hoping I can keep it together. Um, I the name came to me, and I've always stuck with that name. When I was going to transition, people said, "Why don't you go with Tony with an I?" You know, why don't you go with Antoinette? And I said, no, there's something about Karen I got to stay with. I don't know why. And when I told my mom, when I sat down with her with my cousins, and I told her what my name was going to be, something that she had never told me in my entire life. She said when she was pregnant with me, if she had a girl, she was going to name it Karen. And I just totally lost it because,
I just got full body chills with you. Whoa.
yeah, and I just didn't understand why. But now I know why, because that's who I truly am and always have been. And it just blew me away that, I didn't. I mean, literally, people were giving me all kinds of names to go with. And I kept saying, no, no, there's something about Karen I got to stay with. And then I just matched up Kendra with that. I thought it sounded good, Karen Kendra Holmes.
It's
And
fantastic. It sounds like an author. It's a great name. It sounds like a cool, a cool person out of a novel. A cool character.
yeah. And so, you know, and a lot of my friends, they'll call me Karen. A lot of them like Kendra, so they call me Kendra, but that's cool. Just don't call me Tony.
Yeah, we will
Oh,
definitely not do
yeah.
that. What was the chapter that was the hardest? What was the chapter that felt like therapy? I'm
I
guessing the
thought,
whole book felt like therapy, but
I think there's two. One is when I did my TED Talk speech. I was at one conference for youth up in New Jersey, and I was sitting there at dinner with the director of the conference, and I was telling him my story about me. And he said, "Have you ever thought about doing a TEDx story?" And I'm like, "No." Like that's way above my height. And so he says, "You should do one." He said, "This theme that's coming up is going to be on passion, and you have a lot of passion." And I said, Yeah, I blew it off." And so apparently he was texting the director of TEDx Ashbury Park, New Jersey. And so I go to the workshop that my doctor had was talking on, the one that did my surgery. And so I wanted to see her. And so I got up and I talked about what she did for me and how she did it. And her bedside manners were awesome. I talked about all that real quick. The guy sitting behind me afterward, he goes, "Are you Karen Holmes?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm the director for TEDx Ashbury Park." He says, "I think you should do the show and, come on." And so I'm like, I can't believe this. You talk about a divine moment here,
fine
and
timing.
sitting behind me too. And
Yes.
so he said, "I want you to fill out the application. We'll run it through the process that it has to go through. And if everything goes okay, then we'll have you on the show." So I finally put it in 2 weeks later.
Hmm.
And so when I got the response back, they said they wanted me to do um, an audition kind of piece. So I could either do it in person or do a videotape. And
Yeah, they do like a 1 minute video of some sort. Yeah.
actually, it was a little bit longer than that, but
Good.
I went on and said, "I'm gonna go there and do it in person because that way they can see the passion in me directed to the audience and stuff." And so I did that, and it was absolutely great. Another week later, they told me they wanted me to come on and do the live show. And so I said, "Awesome." And then I got a coach, a book about TEDx and stuff. My coach was good. He liked what he heard. I spoke with for 8 other coaches. Yeah. And then I finished that. They gave
Wait,
me
is that
another.
just who you are? You like want to make sure because I'm guessing you have a little bit of perfectionism in you
Yeah, I do.
and you
And
really wanted to feel very prepared. You over prepared to be prepared.
yeah. I mean, literally, when they told me they were giving me another coach 2 weeks before the live show, I'm like, "Are you serious?" So they gave it, and I talked to that coach that next day. He told me he wanted me to flip the story because the way I used to do it before was, "My name is Karen Kendra Holmes. I work for the federal government. I do A, B, C, D. But by the way, I'm transgender." I thought that was great to do it that way because, here people see and hear everything that I'm doing.
Yes.
And then they say, "You're transgender and you do all of these things?" And so that's what he said, "This is what I want you to do. I want you to talk more about Tony and then bring Karen into the scene later." And so I did that. And the next day after that, he goes, "I cannot believe you did such a great job on doing that in one day." And he says, "You're going to be great." And so we had another talk by Skype. And then he said, I'm going to push you over to one more coach. I got you at 95. I think she'll get you to 115. And I'm like, oh my God, this is too much to me, because, it's just a lot for a show, TEDx, And I did. And she told me, "I want you to be a little more passionate about Tony, and bringing in to who you are today." And I did that. Went to the day before to Ashbury Park and did the audition. Well, not rehearsal. The rehearsal the day before. My first coach was sitting behind the curtain on the stage, and when I came off, he was in tears. And I said, "Please don't do that now." I said, "Save that for tomorrow." And so I did that, and everything went great.
Love that.
And it was just awesome.
Yeah.
So the TEDx
Great
talk was,
experience.
yeah, the TEDx title of that one was 40 Years and Wandering No More. I've been sticking with that theme because that's my tagline for who I am. And it's been great. It went from TEDx to now it's on the main screen for TED, and doing very well out there. So, and then the other one I talk about in the book is chapter 11 is God has me here for a reason.
Mhm.
That that right there alone, I'm trying to keep this together too because I right now would not be here. I should be dead. Literally, I say that with all sincerity because of the fact I worked for an alarm company and I worked the midnight shift. And sometimes, I would go fix alarms at certain places during the night because we had keys, or I had to respond to certain alarms. There were times that I had either rolled up somebody, it might have been there, they came through the roof, they weren't inside the building when I got there. Um, my truck, if I had taken off, the truck that I normally would drive would lose radio contact once you got into that area of DC. And somebody that covered for me that night, they thought he was inside. The alarm's going off and everything inside, and they thought he was in there walking around. Literally, he had just called out, and they said, "Don't go in, don't go in." When they finally got there, they came through the scaffolding in the roof. They had a, a pallet filled already with cigarettes and everything, ready to go out the door. So they were there. With me, my radio went out when I got to there, so they wouldn't have known I was there. I would have walked in on that. And there was other cases, the same thing. I've had people that broke in next door, came through the wall, cut through the electric eye. The electric eye, of course, resets back up, and then I would have walked in on that. And come find out the next day, they stole the safe out of there. That
Wow.
meant it was either two or three guys that were in there when I got there or could have been there. And then the biggest one is, well, two more big ones. The big one is I took off to be with my ex-wife. Her mother had passed away 3 days before. And so I go to pick up my check and they said, "Dave is missing." And I'm talking, saying, "What do you mean Dave's missing?" Well, he responded to this jewelry store and him and the police officer are missing. When I found out later, the police officer, they grabbed him by the hand, pulled him in, shot him in the head, and the coworker that covered for me that night got shot in the chest and got killed. That was me, would have been going into that scene right there. And going to the funeral, it was, it just, I lost it because there were so many cars, coming to the funeral and stuff like that. And then I was carrying the casket, one of the pallbearers, and I'm carrying I felt like carrying my own body. And so, and then the last big one is I'm very much out there helping people when I see them broken down or an accident. And so
Hmm.
there was an accident on the Beltway, and this was like 6 o'clock in the morning during the wintertime, and it's still dark. And so the dividing split off to take one of the exits. I was sitting inside the middle part, which hey, if and I've got lights running all around my car, and stuff. And so I figured I'm tired of directing. I said, let me just get my light up flares out of the car. I go to the back of the car and I just felt God say, look back. I look back and here's this car coming right at the back of my car. I
Oh,
moved out of the way just in time, and it stopped 2 feet before it hit my car. And so, and you talk about if looks could kill, he was dead because I was so pissed off that morning. And so those are the times, yeah, God has me here for a reason. And that's what I talk about in the memoir too.
well, that's what I find so fascinating about talking with you is how at ease you are about talking regarding Tony, because so often, and maybe you can shed some light for us cisgender folks who are very fortunate, because I try to explain this to my 14-year-old that, and interestingly enough, when I started to have friends who were transitioning before she was born, I would ask her at 4 and 5, baby, do you feel like your insides match your outsides? I would just ask her that. She had no reason why I'm asking her this, but I'm just curious because I want to, if one day she says, no, mommy, I feel like blah, 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 I want to be able to like understand that and be present with her in those moments. How is it that some trans people have a very difficult time talking about their death, their death? I don't even know how to say it properly, but their death
Right.
person, their death, their how do I even say it properly? I mean, you know what I'm
I
trying to say.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they're just in their head that they just want to forget who they were. I can't forget who I used to be. Like I said, Tony is a
It's really
springboard to
cool.
who I am. Tony, in my TED talk, I do bring up a screen. These are the awards that Tony had received, and I can't think. It's like maybe 15. And then I said, these are the awards Karen has received. And there's another 15. And I'm like, this was 2018 when I did that TED talk. I've blown Tony away as far as awards and stuff.
I
Which
love
is so funny because I talk about that sometimes, and when I go to conferences, I go, yeah, I outdid Tony. And it was so weird that I had
Baby, you
people.
outlived Tony. Let's just say that.
Yeah. And I talk about this as well in the TED Talk. I said, people said, when I got the Willis Green Community Service Award as Tony, and then I got it again as Karen, people said, didn't you get that award before? And I go, no, Tony got that before. I got it this time. And
Yeah, I love
so,
that.
and when I did that on the TED Talk, people in the audience are just cracking up laughing when they heard that, because that's who I see. Tony's separate. His life is totally separate from who I am today. And Tony never wrote a book. um, but it's so funny that I am trying to do some things that Tony did. Go on a cruise ship, parasail. Haven't done the bungee jump yet. And one I want to do that he hasn't done is I want to skydive. I really want to do that. So, we're going to up.
I know you are. And skydiving is actually quite exhilarating, though scary as shit at the top. Like you're like, I'm gonna jump out, but the guys are usually amazing who have you. And I mean,
Right.
you're safe. You're pretty safe, I want to say, because accidents happen. I don't want to ever promise that. When
Right.
when most people see transition as a physical journey, what part of the emotional journey do you think is most misunderstood?
I think people don't understand the fact that when we transition, it's a physical appearance thing. We want to pass. Um, I get jokingly comments from the other cross-dressers or other transgender people that are taller than I am. I'm 5'5". I weigh 145 probably now. Um, and then I never had any surgery. I have no Adam's apple. I've always had a light voice on the phone, which I used to always get mad at when I used to be Tony. Like people would say, "Yes, ma'am." No, not a ma'am. You know, it was that kind of comment back, and now I know, hey, this is who I am. This is who I was
Mhm.
always meant to be. So I think that goes through a lot of transgender people, especially the trans women that are very very tall, or they have the Adam's apple, they have a deep voice. You know, that's a mental thing that we go through. And then the other thing is losing your your spouse, your children, your job, your friends. That's the thing that goes through our minds. Is that going to happen? For
Mhm.
me, the only thing I really lost out of mine is my spouse, that I know of, because she's never told me the reason why she left. But I'm sure that's got to be it. And of course, she would go tell me all the time, "You would make an ugly woman," and blah blah this and
Not at
that.
all. She's couldn't be more wrong.
And so, yeah, those are the kind of things that we go through in our thoughts. I knew when I came back to work, as Karen, I said, you know what? It's going to be okay, because if I come back, there's going to be maybe a 5 to 10% of an issue. Actually, it was only 1 or 2%. My job was very much supportive of me transitioning, and that came all the way from the CEO office. He said, I want this to be good. I want this to go through without any problems." And it did. And even those 1 or 2% of an issue eventually were okay. I had people come up to me that were in that category, and they said, "I am so sorry. You are really a nice person." And I think I was one of those 1 or 2%. And I'm like, wow, if this wasn't meant for that person to hear, I don't know.
Who taught you how to show up so authentic? Is this something that you taught yourself, or was there an elder in your life growing up where you just wanted you just it feels like it comes easy to you. I think you know what I mean? It's really magical in that way.
You know what? It's funny that you said that. And there was my former boss years ago who passed away, and God, I was like, we were a co-worker associates, we became friends, and then we became brother and sister, and then now we were sister and sister.
I love it.
My friend, she would always say, "You're always gawking at women." And I would say, "No, I'm not." But here's the thing: after I transitioned, because she thought for sure she would have known that I was, dressing but she had no idea. And finally, we talked, because I kept it a real good secret with not only her but everybody. That even said, "I've got gaydar, and I know when." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." But she said, I when she said that to me, I said, "You remember?" I said, "Remember when you used to always accuse me of being gaudy at women and stuff? I was really studying them. I wanted to find out what makeup they might have been using, what made them look beautiful, their hair, their clothing, their outfit." And I said, "That's what I was doing. I was studying them." And she goes, "You know what? That makes sense now." And so she knows, that's what it was all about. And to me, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to find out what made that person who they are, what beauty, the makeup they probably were using and stuff, but nobody ever knew. They just thought I was being gaudy.
Oh my, I mean, I think the way that you have gone about your transition is very intellectual, in fact. I mean, even though it's a heart it's a soul, it's an inside job, but a lot of it was very intellectual, in the sense of you were very, not calculated, because that comes off very negative, but you were really like, you were mapping it out very cautiously, very intentionally.
Yeah. I tell you, the biggest thing is, and you talk about the intellect and stuff. It's like who we are in our mind, heart, and spirit. That's what every transgender person who really goes the distance. That's who we are. It's I and the one thing I always get on people is, and I did on even with my mom when I first started, she said, "Well, it was your choice to do this. It was your choice to be who you are." And I said, "Mom, I need to stop you. Or if I'm speaking at an audience, I need to stop you. That word choice is not in our vocabulary. It was a decision that we made so we can live, be happy, just like you are. We want to be happy. We want to live that life that, we never lived before, for me, the first 53 years. But, hey, I'm not wandering anymore."
Yeah, it's so beautiful. What question do you wish people would ask transgender individuals more often?
The biggest thing is I always tell a lot of people, especially like somebody like myself or a lot of transgender people, I think they would answer, is ask us our journey. Why did we become? Because I think that's very important for other people to understand. Not what this administration is shoving out the window, who we are. It's the same thing when it comes to sports, and I would love to talk about that as well. But that's an issue. And when I tell people, "Hey, look, I've lost a lot of strength within the first year of my transition being on hormones," and then they're kicking us around when it comes to trans women and stuff being in cisgender sports, but you don't hear anything about trans men playing in men's sports. It's always the trans women that they're kicking around. When I played ball, and then of course when I had knee surgery, my orthopedic said, I said, "Can I play ball again?" And he said, "Are you getting paid for this?" And I said, "No." He said, "Then you'd be stupid to play anymore." And
Well,
so
thanks,
that was,
Doc. Geez, that sucks.
yeah. Well, I remember, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie For the Love of the Game with Kevin
Yeah.
Costner.
Yes.
That was me.
Mm.
Every time I see that movie, because I have the DVD, every time I see that, I'm in tears because that was me going through life wanting to play ball and having to give it up. But I played co-ed softball, and there were women playing that. I'm like, oh my God, they're good. I'm like, I watched college women's softball.
It's
I'm like,
fun.
they should be playing in the major leagues. They should
Agreed.
start something. You know, and here with me being on hormones for that first year, I've lost a lot of strength. When I had my big surgery, testosterone was gone. That's what they need to do is test us, wait the period of at least a year, and then if it's okay, because of the testosterone level, let them play. Because I tell you one thing, way the girls have been playing that I've seen, they would put me to shame right now. So, yeah. So that's how.
I think it's a good call out on that because I do think there's a perception that people think one thing, right? It's their own belief. And because it's just an announcer saying it on, a news channel, no one's getting curious around that questioning and no one's talking to the athlete itself.
Right,
So
right.
I think you make a really good point. How do
And
you
it's the same and it's the same thing for like with my military, going to the base for the first time when I was with the Maryland Defense Force, which supported the Maryland National Guards. As soon as I got to the base for that weekend, the first thing in my head is I got to go check out the shower area because I got to get up early in the morning with other females and take a shower and head out to be out for formation at a certain time. I got in there. Here it is. The shower area is a communal shower area. No curtains around the heads or anything. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And okay, I see that shower head. I'm going to take that one, face the corner. Nobody that's in there will see. There was only one other lady, but it's like, I knew how to do that. Now I don't have to worry about that. And I tell the military when I've spoken to them, stick a curtain rod around and put curtains up, and there's not a problem. Same thing at schools if there's any of them like that. So, you know, there's always a workaround if you just think or talk to moi.
Yeah.
We can help you out on some of that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
I think
yeah,
so many, especially, it's just so misogynistic out there. It's like, there's not, they don't think that way until someone they know and trust that they can have those conversations kind of, you know, um, just around even Black Lives Matter. It's like until white people are really willing to ask the questions and face our own, the volatility between all of these different colored, skins out there. It's just this administration is just making it worse and worse, so it's just always constant battle, I think, for the gay community, the trans community, but yet we're all one community in my mind and my heart.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
try to tell my mom. It was cute because she helps me with the podcast and she calls organizations for me on my behalf. And she said, "But honey," because she's a boomer, you know, "isn't queer derogatory?" And I said,
It used to be.
"Yeah, it used to be." Exactly. Thank you, Karen, for validating that. And I said, "Mom, right now it's so important that we are all under the same umbrella because the more we're stronger, the more we are together, the stronger we are." And
Yeah.
so with Pride Month this month, how do you celebrate Pride? What do you do to acknowledge your beautiful queerness, right?
Well, I just finished last week. I was at the Montgomery County Council raising of the LGBT flag, and I was the keynote speaker at that. And
Beautiful.
so, what I did emphasize at when I did speak is, yes, this is Pride Month, but we should have pride in us each and every day. It's
Yes.
not just the month. And
Yes.
so everybody loved that when I said that because that's truly for me. I've got to have pride in myself in order to be able to pass, be accepted, and stuff like that. I want people to take and understand who I am, not what's on the outside. And I was back in 2015, I believe it was. I was in the magazine called the Platform Magazine. It's an international magazine. And in there, I was among 31 other women from around the world for up and coming aspiring females with a platform. But you know what? I was the only trans woman among those 31 other women. And I felt like, so pride, that's pride every day who we are. And they also did a story on me. It's on the cover of that magazine too. It's just nice to know. Yes, I'm representing not only the trans community, but I'm representing women. Period. Which takes me to my military. I was with the Maryland Defense Force for 5 years. I joined in 2011. In 2012, by the Maryland Defense Force and the Maryland Association, I got NCO Soldier of the Year, which is non-commissioned officer for anybody that doesn't know what NCO means.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
in, and in 2013, by the State Guard Association of the United States, I got Soldier of the Year of the country.
I love it.
Every award in 2012, 2013, I've got female soldiers coming up to me and going, "Great job, you're doing it for us." Well, yeah, I am because that's who I am. But
Right.
I'm also doing it for the transgender community, which I couldn't talk about because of the fact, you know, they hadn't accepted us yet. And
What
now look at it.
what I say when you were saying, we need to have pride in ourselves and it's pride 365 days a year. I mean, you see me, right? Like I am lesbian visibility every day too. It's like there are certain senses of, femme presenting, lesbians, but they can just walk into a bar and not even be considered, gay. No one would know they were gay. Just as I told you, it's like you could walk right by me and I wouldn't have even thought you were trans. It's like passing, for sure. But I think it's the way we also carry ourselves because I have not had anything derogatory come my way, but I think it's because of my golden retriever,
Oh my God.
happiness and joy, right? It's how we walk into a room. Like, I'm fucking happy being myself. So, no one needs to come at me.
Now I know why we now have a kindred spirit. I have a golden retriever that's 10 months old, and I love her to death. And so, yeah. But if you were to come by or walk by, I would definitely try to, figure out some kind of way to connect with you. It's like, hey, you want to go out for drinks?
Yeah, totally.
you
Yeah.
know?
But it's easier because when we're mask presenting, it's easier for us to be identified in the world. And I welcome people to come up and say, hey, I'm gay too. Like, hey, what's up? Like, hey, I'm trans, I'm LGBTQ, I'm queer, whatever, non-binary. I don't care. I'm pansexual, demisexual, like whatever you are. If you're under that umbrella, I'm happy to be friends with that, and we can kibitz on, what I'm Jewish too. So I use sometimes some fun lingo, but Yiddish, but yeah.
But you know what? I love the fact that you use the word under that umbrella. And I talk about that a lot of times when I speak at conferences because people, they say the word transgender. Well, under the transgender umbrella, are we talking about a crossdresser? Are we talking about a transsexual, pansexual? You know, I want to know that to make a determination. It's like when I've got friends of mine who have called me and said, "Oh, a trans person in such and such state was either assaulted or murdered." Okay, I ask questions because I've been around the law enforcement area a lot. What, where were they at? What time of the day was it?
Right.
Oh, well, wait a minute, that's a bad area. That 4 o'clock in the morning. Eh, you know.
Yeah,
And
you're putting
so
yourself at risk no matter who or what you are at that point, right? Like,
yeah,
it's 4 a.m. in the
exactly.
morning in a sketchy area. Hell no. My
Yep,
ass is at
exactly.
home.
Got that right. And I try to tell my mom that all the time that I don't go into areas that I'm not familiar with. Believe me, if I get lost, you're going to think I know my way around anyway. That's just the way I am when it comes to, being lost.
Yeah.
Um, and I just stay out of certain areas, but no, she now feels comfortable. I don't do a lot of things that I used to do as far as helping people, stopping for accidents like Tony did. I do it only for my own safety. Time of day, location of the accident or broken down vehicle. I take all of that in consideration now because I'm female. I don't want to put myself at risk and get hurt.
If someone, Karen, is listening today, this episode, and standing at the edge of their own truth, whether it's about identity, love, purpose, or simply being themselves, what would you want them to know?
Um, go deep down inside. That's the only way you're going to know if this is really for you. Dreams are made to be lived, so live them. Go confident in the direction that you want to go. That's very, very important. And be yourself, but make sure this is really right for you because I know when I went to the Philadelphia Trans Health Conference that when I left that conference, I'm coming down 95 from Philly down to Maryland. I said, I got to do this. I was like a runaway freight train. That's when you know it's right for you. And
Yeah.
if you've got that kind of feeling, go for it. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. I know, like with my mom, she was the last person I told because I knew she would argue with me and fight with me. And I've always told her, brought it up. No, if I had talked to you first about this, you probably would have tried to talk me out of it. I needed to do this for me. That was the decision. And so make that decision. Do what you have to do and do it.
I love that. So I always have like a fun rapid fire at the end. Are you ready for some?
I guess so.
Mountains or beach? We'll start easy.
Okay, beach,
Oh, nice. Coffee or tea?
coffee
How do you take your coffee?
with cream and Splenda.
In case some girl's listening, wants to know. or, or anybody, sunrise or sunset?
Both. Can I take both?
Yeah, you can totally do both. I love that. What's your favorite comfort food recently?
Lasagna.
God, I love lasagna. Do you make it yourself?
Yin yang yang man yang yang bong jay. I mean, that I'll let me say in English on that one.
One word you use to describe yourself.
Phenomenal.
You are pretty phenomenal. I'll have to say that now. What makes you laugh every time?
Hmm. Right now, my golden retriever.
Oh,
I
I
don't
know
care.
puppies are the best.
Yeah, she does things that really, because I'm training her and stuff. She does things that just really aggravates me, especially biting. And then I'll start laughing and going, I can't believe I'm laughing and you're biting on me, and I'm telling you to stop biting. And it just makes me laugh now. So she's been a big joy to my life right now. And I'll tell you one thing, I had started thinking a couple of weeks ago, and it came to me 2 nights in a row, and I said, would I take a bullet for Angel? That's my dog's shit, her name. And I said, yeah, I would take a bullet for her. I would die for her. I would go into a burning building to save her life.
That's unconditional love right there.
Yeah. And she's given it to me as well, and
They
like
don't
I
know
said,
anything different. We're their whole world.
we are.
That's
We are.
that's what a lot of people don't recognize. So I was a canine cop in the Air Force. I served
Yeah.
during Desert Storm.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you. It was also during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, right? It was during that time. But I was a leader in my canine school, and it
Oh,
was all men. I led all the guys. So I had to learn how to smell a lot of stinky boys, and get over it. But I've then had my own dog training business for 10 years. So if you want to call me for tips, you can, but it sounds like you're doing a great job. But I live for my golden doodle. His name is Cooper. He'll be 9. So I thoroughly understand that because I've trained a lot of puppies and I've had dogs where I've been with partnerships and they bring their animals into it. And I love them just the same. But he's like my first that I got as a puppy. And so almost 9 years later, the dude and I are like inseparable. But
that's funny that you said about the canine, because that's another connection for us. My general put me in command of a canine emotional support unit. So what I'll be
oh,
doing
sweet.
is training um, Angel, of course, and I've got other battalions across the country.
Ooh,
We're going to be visiting veterans in nursing homes, and the big thing is, if any disaster happens in the country, we want to send them and their dog with them to go over there to be there for the search and rescuers and the volunteers,
yes.
because they can love and hug all over the dogs. And so that's what my game plan is. I know, like, when I've gone on a couple of assignments when I was with AmeriCorps, I partnered up with FEMA. And as a volunteer to go there, you get very much emotional in what you see and what the people are going through that have lost everything. My first one was down in Joplin, Missouri, when the tornado hit. I was there for 2 weeks. And when I was there, not only did I lose track of time, I lost track of days.
Mm,
And that was very much bothered me when I came home. All I wanted to do was talk about it, talk about it, talk. And I couldn't get it out of my system. Same thing when Houston, for Harvey. I was there for 2 weeks. Same thing. Lost track of time, days. And then that wasn't as bad as it was for Joplin, because Joplin, I got to meet people up real close that had their child was stuck in the car, flipped upside down, and they couldn't see the child, but they could only touch the child. Another one was where a child was killed in the tornado, and the father's got his head covered from the injury, and they wanted to stand next to me doing the vigil that night. And I'm like, wait a minute, don't you have neighbors, next door neighbors, that you'd rather stay with than be with me? And it took a lot out of me emotionally. So yeah.
The Phoenix Police Department, because that's where I live in Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix Police Department, the 911 dispatchers, they have around 3 to 4 golden retrievers as support animals. and they could come in a couple times during the shift, or if they're notified that there's a couple of really harsh incidents going on at the time, then the dogs come in and hang out next to those dispatchers just to provide that support. Dogs are just miracles in themselves. So I'll leave with this. Karen, this podcast is called Living Out Loud. What does living out loud mean to you today?
I want to say living our life just to be normal, but being positive out there, showing a big representation of not only who you are, but having respect for other people, that you're going to run into people that don't have respect for you. And the way to turn their life around is to be honest with you and who you are, and just give them respect. When I had partnered up with DOJ Community Relations Services Department for the last 7 years until Trump 2.0 came on and got rid of DEI, I was speaking to law enforcement officers around the country. To see their opinion and their lives change to who we are, oh, blew me away. And that's what I like, is the fact that now I'm dealing with officers that might have been on force for 20 to 40 years, and their lives are changing because of who I am and speaking that truth out to them and being proud of who I am. So, and they're like, wow, why don't you come do a ride along with us? So where I do it here, so yeah.
I love that. Well, I really want to say happy Pride to you.
Happy Pride to you.
And I'm so glad that we now know each other. Thank you, Podmatch, for connecting us. I didn't know what I was going to get when I jumped on Podmatch, but I've been pleasantly surprised by the amazing people that I've gotten to connect with, even if they haven't been a great fit or whatnot. But it's a pretty wonderful, platform in order to, just maybe meet some new people and broaden our reach in a sense. So I'm grateful that we got to connect, and I wish
Yeah,
you so much
absolutely.
luck with your book. And just thank you for being you in the world, Karen. It is enough. You are enough, and I'm glad that we have you as part of the community.
Well, thank you. And go Pride.
That's right.
Each and every day.
I
Each and
love,
every day.
yes, 365, right?
You got it.
We're going to just keep rainbow ripples. We're going to keep spreading those rainbow ripples, I like to say.
Well, I tell people, like, especially like at the end of my TED talk, it's like I'm this little pebble that's been thrown out into a big body of water.
That's
And the
right.
ripple effects of that is my story, telling you and everybody else. Tell people about it. Like, hey, I just heard a story, or talked to Karen or somebody else that's trans. Tell them their story without outing them. I'm giving you perfectly my okay to talk the heck out of me that, hey, you know what? She's okay. She's doing what she needs to do. She's that pebble that I want to be able to spread the word out.
Well, you're definitely doing more than okay, but keep spreading pebbles. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
If you liked this episode, please hit the follow button, and remember, sharing is caring. Until next week, stay proud, stay loud.